Chapter 384, A Half-Saint Desires to Accept an Apprentice. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Saint Xigentry was an old power for over 10,000 years in the eastern region. It had a solid foundation. In its history, there were many saint-level powerhouses, and in its heyday, it could command all of the eastern region. Even though it was worse off now, it still existed as a colossus. There were a lot of young geniuses, whether in its lineal juniors or its adopted hangers-on and disciples. Xuzu, who was just defeated by Xingkong, was ranked 10th among the younger generation of Saint Xigentry. A loud scolding arose. "You have guts. It's unbelievable that there are so many daredevils. If you've pissed off our Saint Xigentry, you are out of luck." Xuanzai, who ranked 4th among the younger geniuses of Saint Xigentry, jumped up from the 27th stairway and displayed the Windbird Snow Palm. It was a superior class palm technique of the spiritual stage. Xuanzai had practiced it to the realm of success. As he threw the palm, a snowstorm began to rage. A current of icing air swept through that seemed to freeze the entire space. Then, it became a genuine chi handprint and beat on Xingkong's chest. Xuanzai had reached the advanced stage of the heaven realm, one realm higher than Xingkong. Moreover, the exercise that he practiced was the mid-class ghost level, invincible skill. As for the warriors of the four martial realms, it was a really powerful exercise. If the exercises were more advanced, they would be harder to understand and practice. In case of any carelessness, a cultivator would probably be possessed by the devil and doomed eternally. Therefore, even as the descendants of Saint Gentry, most of them only practiced spiritual stage exercises in the four martial realms. Only those top-class people chose to practice the ghost-level exercises. Most people did not start to practice the ghost-level exercises or king's stage exercises until they had reached the fish-dragon realm. That was to say, Xuanzai was really something since he could successfully master the invincible skill, a mid-class exercise at the ghost level. Xingkong stood below and suddenly turned his arms to attack Xuanzai. Pow! After the strike, both of them fell back. They were well matched in strength. "He has real skill, but I only used 30% of my strength." Xuanzai's body ballooned as if there were gas in his clothes. The genuine chi inside constantly surged and his strength immediately increased by 20%. And then, he attacked Xingkong once again. It was another movement of the Windbird Snow Palm. As a result, his palm hit Xingkong's right dragon claw. Whoosh! Xingkong was overwhelmed by the power of the icing cold and almost half of his body was frozen. Xuanzai is indeed formidable. He's much stronger than the top-class people in the half-saint families. In particular, his Windbird Snow Palm has reached the pinnacle of perfection. All the gifted disciples were amazed that someone who was only a fourth genius of Saint Gentry was already so amazing. Xu King was the first master among the young generation of the Saint Xu family. Thus, it was easy to imagine Xu King's martial attainments. In terms of their natural gifts, Xuanzai is superior to Zihanshaw, so he could be counted as a top-notched powerhouse. Duan Muxingling said. Zhang Yuochen said, if in the same realm, the eldest brother should be able to combat with Xuanzai. Unfortunately, the eldest brother is one realm lower than Xuanzai now, so he might take a beating. Duan Muxingling asked, should we go to assist them now? The eldest brother and senior brother Chang cannot contend against all the junior masters of Saint Xigentry. Luo Shuihan slightly frowned and said, I think we'd better wait for a moment. If we also launch attacks, that means we declare war against Saint Xigentry. You can't imagine the background of a Saint Gentry. Moreover, Saint Xigentry has a history of 10,000 years. So it has a large fortune and a lot of offspring all around the world. Even our Saint Luo Gentry can't compare with Saint Xigentry. Saint Luo Gentry only had a history of 200 years. And although Luo Xu's power was far beyond that of the Saint of Saint Xigentry, in terms of comprehensive strength, they were not at the same level. Chen Xia said, Senior sister disciple Luo is right. We ought to be cautious. You need to know that each Saint Gentry has many benefit-based relationships through marriage and cooperation, so they are interconnected. Once we declare war on Saint Xigentry, the other Saint Gentrys will definitely get involved. All the descendants of Saint Gentrys are conceited. So, They won't turn a blind eye if St. Gentry is suppressed by our Oman Ridge. That's to say, even if we can defeat the juniors of St. Gentry, we'll still need to battle with all St. Gentrys. When that time comes, will we be able to win? In every place, the group of top-level people would form a circle of interests. They could compete with each other, but they would not allow the lower people to get promoted. And when some of the lower people attempted to show themselves, those people would definitely be jointly dealt with. For example, Lei Jing had been pushed aside by the people of St. Gentry during those days. Only those people with unrivaled talent, like Liu Exu, could stand firm in the Saint Academy. Moreover, the title of saint was conferred on him in defiance of nature when he was being suppressed by St. Gentry. The saints' statues stood in the holy temple at the top of the stairway to heaven, and beside them, the half-saints sat cross-legged on the ground. As Saint Academy's examination was held once every 10 years, many half-saints were certainly attracted to take a look. They were curious to know who would be God's favored sons this year. If some incredible talents appeared, they would take the opportunity to take apprentices to become like themselves. Although all half-saints were lecturers of the Saint Academy, most of them belonged to a gentry or suzerain, so they had different relationships of interests. Only a few half-saints were utterly isolated. There was a half-saint who had a 4-meter-high bulky figure, wearing a sackcloth with a bare chest. There was a string of prayer beads hanging around his neck and he sat cross-legged like Maitreya Buddha. His body was like a hill. His name was Demi St. Alan, one of the lecturers of the Saint Academy. He used to practice in the Thousand Buddhas sect for some time. Demi St. Alan laughed and said, "Interesting, it's really interesting. The 2 disciples of Oman Ridge must have obtained the dragon's blood of a golden dragon. Their physical qualities have mutated. One has grown dragon scales, while the other has grown dragon claws. If they're carefully taught and some knowledge of the golden dragon inside is awakened, their achievements will be limitless." So, Demi St. Alan, are you going to take them as your apprentices? Demi St. Lingxiu asked while looking with a sideways glance. Demi St. Lingxiu wore a red robe and carried a holy sword on her back. The impression she made was overbearing. However, she was totally different from Demi St. Alan. As she sat cross-legged on the ground, she was only the size of a fist with a 3-inch high figure. One was 4 meters high, while the other was only 3 inches high. Of course, Demi St. Alan said with a smile, the golden dragon has a deep relationship with our Buddhism. The 2 guys could obtain golden dragon's blood, signifying that they are related to Buddhism naturally. Moreover, the most important thing is that they are so brave that they dare to challenge St. Gentry. So, it's really interesting. However, it's too early to talk about taking apprentices. I have to wait until they pass at least 3 rounds and officially become saints. If they fail to pass 3 rounds, they're unqualified to be my apprentices. Half-saints were extremely strict in taking apprentices. Even if Chang Kiki and Sik Kong had a deep relationship with Buddhism, they still needed to pass the examination. Only if they passed all the tests would Demi St. Alan consider to accept them as apprentices. There was a huge difference between taking apprentices and taking students. In the Holy Temple, an indifferent voice emanated. Unexpectedly, the 2 guys dare to insult our St. Gentry. I'm afraid that their cultivation will be destroyed in the first round. Demi St. Alan, I fear that you won't have the chance to take them as your apprentices. The speaker was a half-saint of St. Gentry named Demi St. Sandao. Demi St. Lingxiu, the 3-inch high red-robed woman said with a smile. Demi St. Sandao, I heard that 50 years ago, Lei Jing offended your St. Gentry and was expelled from the Saint Academy. Originally, Lei Jing swore that he would go back to the Saint Academy with a brilliant prodigy to wipe out the descendants of all the Saint Gentrys. Now, Lei Jing leads the gifted students of Oman Ridge to the Saint Academy. What's your opinion on that? Demi St. Sandao snorted and said, Lei Jing, he's just an unscrupulous junior. 50 years ago, I didn't take him seriously. And in the future, I still won't. As for the 2 geniuses of Oman Ridge, even if they have obtained the Golden Dragon's blood, they can be considered first-class geniuses at most. They still can't compete with the top-level prodigies. The gifted students among the juniors of our St. Gentry will easily suppress them. Demi St. Lingxiu said, I've heard that several prodigies were born in Oman Ridge. Moreover, the female prodigy of Saint Leo Gentry has practiced the saintly being in the entire eastern region. How many young students can withstand that? And worse still, I've heard that Lei Jing took an apprentice who has the inheritance of Buddhist tempera. But, I don't know if that's true. To me St. Alan said. Although the news that Zhang Yuochen had defeated Yi had not been spread, many big shots of the school of the martial market had still gotten wind of that event. For this reason, so many half-saints came here today. They wanted to see if Lei Jing had really accepted a great apprentice. Incredibly, Lei Jing, a notorious rebellious student, had dared to challenge Saint Gentry. Even the half-saints had also heard his name. To me Saint Sandow remained calm. The female prodigy of Luo's family is indeed a saintly being. However, she represents Saint Gentry, rather than Oman Ridge. As for Lei Jing's apprentice, who knows if he is as powerful as Lei Jing boasted. Moreover, this year's students are more advanced in their overall strength than last year's. Empress Kaiyao has managed everything for 500 years. Farmers are blessed with propitious winds and rains. Martial arts is prosperous and saints come forth in large numbers. Young geniuses are also more and more plentiful. Even if one more genius appears in Oman Ridge, it would be normal. But unfortunately, no matter how powerful he is, Lei Jing's disciple is doomed to be suppressed by Xia King, a gifted disciple of our Saint Xia Gentry. To me Saint Sandow mentioned Empress Kaiyao, so who dared to argue further with him? If anyone were to argue further, it would be regarded as being impolite to Empress Kaiyao. All the half-saints remained silent and split their divine souls. They continued to look toward the stairway to heaven and waited to see what would develop next.